So I saw this story maybe about a week or two ago that I thought was really, really interesting. And I've been looking for videos on it, and there are essentially none with this information that I find valuable, so I'm going to make a video. So JP Morgan just released this crazy fucking initiative where they're doing like mass surveillance on their employees. Oh shit! So they're marking it under the guise of safety because you've had people in the banking industry, like some of the employees, literally die from overexhaustion, and they're saying, "Hey, man, we want to make sure people aren't working too hard, so we're gonna fucking mass surveil everyone, and we're gonna track their keystrokes. We're going to track how much time they spend in Zoom calls and meetings. We're going to track their email and work activity patterns. We're even going to go onto their work phones to possibly listen to their phone calls or, just maybe track the messages that they're sending. Um, also, I know Chase is very, I wouldn't say very, but Chase is becoming a lot more serious about in-office attendance. And they're saying so they're also going to track, your badge swipes, your office attendance, how you log into your workstation. Are you actually doing work on your workstation? And I think the fucking craziest thing is, bro, they're doing keystrokes. Um, so it's kind of all of these things coming together in one, and they're basically creating a fucking like a profile. And they're Okay, so the reason why I find this interesting is because I think you're seeing this happen a lot with companies, and there's two particular companies that do this on a like very, very wide scale. Um, One of them is called Active Track, and the other one is called Time Doctor. So so the interesting thing about Time Doctor is that Time Doctor basically creates fucking like the benchmarks for employees. So similar to how you have like a benchmark for an AI based on, like how good it is in images, like like how well it ranks up against other multimodal models. So how good it is at coding, how good it is at creative writing, how good it is at debugging. They're doing the same thing for fucking they do the same thing for like real human like workers, and they have these benchmarks of okay, like what is a junior analyst, or what is a fucking like senior consultant like, and they aggregate all of this data that they say is anonymized. Who fucking cares if it's anonymized? Um, Across like 12,000 organizations. And then they built these for different benchmarks. And then you can benchmark, you know, I guess the averages against the different employees that you have and kind of decide what to do from there. Um, Time Doctor is really interesting because they're not VC backed, they're bootstrapped. So that's kind of fascinating. Like, who's buying that shit? And then there's another company called Active Track, which is a much newer company. They maybe came out around maybe 5 or 6 years. Time Doctor's been around since 2012. So Active Track is a fucking agent, and it runs on people's computer, and it's basically what I was describing is Daddy Wuda from earlier. So ActiveTrack also publishes benchmarks, but it's a it's a much smaller user base, and they get much more granular. So, okay, I have two theories, right? So I think one, what I think is happening with ActiveTrack is that I think that they're deploying an agent on your computer to literally learn what you're doing and then find ways to essentially replace the lower ring of employees. With Time Doctor, I think they're building some type of like evaluation system that you can pit directly against your workers or agents in the future to, kind of benchmark them, see how well they're doing, and see where they need to improve. So I think Time Doctor is sort of more of a benchmarking, maybe a diagnosis tool, where I think Active Track is like more of a um like agent tool, right? Like it's gonna be something that's very, very proactive because it's fucking active track. Um, I don't know, bro. This fucking surveillance shit is really, really interesting. I think the reason why it fascinated me with JP Morgan specifically is because it's it's such a specialized role and you have to work so fucking hard to get to JP Morgan. You have to go to the top fucking school. You have to do a bunch of fucking internships. You have to have this very specialized knowledge to even get into the building. Like, let alone fucking get actually hired in, right? So you can get an internship, but to actually get, you know, an offer to go there, you have to be like in the top 5% of people. If I'm being generous. And the fact that they're fucking tracking these people, and the employees online are saying that the leadership just doesn't trust them to actually do their work, so they feel like they need to be handheld on everything. And I think then the question becomes like, okay, what is a junior employee going to be, right? Because if you think about like what people in sort of like the lower ring are doing, like some of it is repetitive tasks, and a lot of it is just shit that the like leadership doesn't want to do. They will just kind of like throw it off to the employees and go figure it out. And that's why you had people dying in the financial industry from working like fucking like 90 plus hours. And it's like the big joke of like, okay, in the finance industry, they pay for your DoorDash, they pay for your food, they fucking pay for your Uber, and you have to fucking like you leave at 4 and you come back at 7, or sometimes you don't even leave, you just leave it, right? I'm thinking like if the agents replace these like people in the lower ring, then what is the new junior employee going to look like, right? Because essentially, if all the work that these people are doing is considered like menial in the age of AI, with menial having the definition of it's something that an AI agent can easily accomplish, and if we just sort of extrapolate and we imagine that this fucking Danny Wuda that JPM and these other companies are deploying are tracking the keystrokes of people, tracking the activities of people, and learning, what their work process is and how that work process relates to their output. And then being able to come up with agents that essentially take care of the vast majority of those tasks. If you're automating a bunch of this shit that the current junior employees do, then what is the next generation of junior employees going to do? Like, by logic, there has to be junior employees, right? People have to get hired into a company and then they have to grow into the ranks and, whatever the fuck. Or there's always going to be a sort of like bottom level of work that you need done. However, with a lot of, the current tasks becoming agentic, I'm thinking like, what the fuck are like like, bro, like, what's this bottom row going to look like? I'm really fascinated about that. Is it going to be somebody who is like base level technical? Like, you can meet somebody in finance, you can meet somebody in consulting who can't code shit, who doesn't understand very much about technology. I mean, now it's changing a bit with AI, but even then, a lot of these people don't really know how to use AI effectively. But I'm thinking, is the next junior employee just going to be somebody who understands AI and then understands like how to apply it to their specific sector? So whether it's finance, whether it's fucking consulting or whatever. And then what are those tasks going to be? Is it just going to be like managing a bunch of agents? I think on the upper levels of management, things are kind of going to like remain the same for the most part. Like I think they'll probably cut off like a bunch of fucking like middle managers because they're just like, bro, middle managers are basically fucking like human agent orchestrators. Like they're just treating the, fucking entry level workers like agents and just saying, hey, bro, do this, do this, do that, do that. So if anything, I think the middle management I think the role of middle management is going to largely disappear along with the role of entry level workers. And I think senior leadership is, I think that's a lot more strategic. And I don't know if AI has the capability to be strategic in the coming years because, you're kind of seeing how sycophantic it is. You're seeing the different like vending machine tests. So they would give an agent a vending machine to run, and the vending machine would just lose money. Like it would give people stuff for free, and also there's some other ones about like the fucking vending machines forming like monopolies. Like they like getting with each other to form these fucking like seedy backroom deals to where they're fixing the prices on stuff. So I think when it comes to the ethics of AI, and I think even if you were to like put very strict boundaries around it, it naturally wants to please whoever the user is, or maybe it naturally has some type of goal, even if you say, okay, just like so side note, if you look through the like some of like the raw prompts, you will literally see like don't hallucinate, don't hallucinate, don't hallucinate, don't manipulate, don't manipulate, don't manipulate. So it's like even if you put like, don't manipulate X3, I think the agent will probably still do it, and because of that, it's not really suitable to be in senior level leadership. But when it comes to tasks that a lot of organizations are likely going to think are pretty meaningless, such as coding or such as making presentations, organizing information, then these jobs are going to be cut, and it's essentially just going to be. I'm imagining people who are able to orchestrate these agents to do this, and people with good discernment, good taste, and the ability to pitch clients. Like I don't think sales itself is going anywhere for a while because people need to interact with others. Okay, and within the monitoring system, it can it can trigger outreach. So it can directly tell your manager what's going on, and it can do things like a welfare check. It can do things like contacting HR, or potentially even using this for disciplinary action. And yeah, bro, it's like fucking like it's like I don't know, bro. It's like you're like tracking cattle, and you're just kind of like prodding them to train them. But yeah, bro. So I think with all this, essentially, you're just modeling your employees, right? So you're tracking all of this information and you're creating models of them, and then you're able to create an average, and from there you're able to fucking model a junior worker. So, and I think as a junior worker, there's really not much that you can do. And one of these platforms has over 443 million hours of digital workplace data. And I think that's the valuable thing. I don't think that they're necessarily selling this data. I think that they're using this data to make models of their employees, and then these employees will essentially be replaced by these agents, and these agents will have access to all of this data. Now, rather they're going to third party this, or rather these agents are going to be built internally will be very, very interesting. And I'm curious as to, well, different organizations kind of have this agentic war or who has the best. So there is sort of like a war on talent that generally goes on, right? Like people want the very best talent to come to the organization, and they'll provide, perks in order for them to do that. But once you have this data set that trains your agents, I wonder, will the field kind of normalize, and then will people have to find different ways to, make their organization better, or this or that? Or will the sort of data from their employees kind of just fall into the core of the agents? But yeah, dude, overall, this is absolutely fucking nuts. I just thought it was super, super interesting. I didn't see. So okay, so I haven't been able to find much information about this online. There are a bit of people talking about it. Like there was an article on Business Insider where some people were pretty scared. But in terms of like any employees or just really even leadership talking about this sort of level, it's just not really there. So definitely going to stay, monitoring this in the coming months. But yeah, this is super fascinating. Peace.